How's it going, everyone? Welcome to a very content-packed Thursday night for me. We have a very, very special guest, Ron Stewart, Mr. August, as many know him. We are going to just talk some ball for a little bit. We're going to do a rookie mock draft, just kind of talking through strategy and talking through kind of the pockets and everything and what we're seeing in our draft so far. And then we might rip a best ball draft, maybe might not, depending on how we're feeling. But definitely get ready to jump in with us, and let's get started. Ron, how's your night going? Welcome to the channel. I've been following you for. I mean, I don't probably not since the beginning. I know you talked about how you were doing some videos and then finally one popped off. But I mean, it's got to be at least like 2021. So really appreciate you hopping on to talk some rookies. And yeah, how you doing?
Doing well, man. Yeah, I do. I appreciate you having me on. I know, like you said, you've been around the channel for a while, so it's always nice to put a face to the Discord names and the YouTube names because you you seemingly are a normal person, but sometimes you do get caught up of these like faceless comments and you don't know who these people are. So it's nice to meet you, man. And yeah, I'm excited to talk ball.
Yeah, this is I mean, I've really enjoyed just getting to know everyone in the community more. It's such a good community. Just whatever, best ball, ship chasing community, dynasty community. There's just so many cool people. And you're definitely one of the leaders in the space, I would say, for dynasty especially. So yeah, I know you've been doing a lot of rookie content. How many rookie drafts are you in right now currently, or have you done?
Man, I think right now, if I check, I think I'm in 2 currently, like, still drafting. I think, like, about probably 7 have wrapped up, and then I still have 2 left to go, I think, or maybe I have yeah, I actually have a couple still to go. I have one that or honestly, both of the leagues that are commissioned aren't by me because I like to have them a little bit sooner than this, but it's nice to space them out a little bit because I will say, like, you probably go through the same thing, like, it's actually funny too, because I do this for a living, but then it also like trying to write a video, but then also being on the clock once every like 30 minutes, it screws up your train of
Oh,
thought and you're trying to write and
overwhelming.
you're yeah, so it's nice to have them spaced out a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's something I really I don't do like videos, I only do streams. So seeing like how much thought and preparation goes into your stuff really really stands out because yeah, so what kind of is your process in terms of like thinking out stuff, planning out stuff? Because that's something I'm really interested in terms of just behind the scenes, pull back the curtain in the basement.
That's actually a really good question that I don't think I've ever gotten, but yeah, it's like honestly to my detriment, man. Like if I'm being completely honest, like business wise and growth wise and money wise, it would probably be better if I just churn these videos out with a little bit less thought. But like you said, you enjoy, the thought that goes into it. I think that my subscribers like appreciate it as well. But it is kind of it's funny, man. It's actually very similar to my old shout out to my English professors in high school. I fancy myself a bit of a writer. I actually started writing articles for Player Profiler a while back. And it's kind of
Okay.
that similar art. It's kind of that similar style of it's like fairly simple of like the old. I'm trying to think of like what we used to call it. It was like race, where it was like answer, cite, explanation, but it's something on the lines of like it's very much. I'll structure the video outline, and it's just here is what I believe, and then evidence to support that, and then kind of going into it from there. So it's almost like it's funny, man. Like every video, it's almost similar to like in college what an outline for like an essay would be, where you're trying to prove a point or whatever. So it's not
Sure.
it's not as free flow as you might think. So yeah, there's like bullet points and everything. But I have gotten much better at like not like back in the day, I would have it almost like paragraphs, but like now it's much more bullet points. You can kind of flow with it. So yeah, it's a lot of just having a take, but then also finding the evidence to back it up. And it is funny. Recently, people have been getting on me for using too much evidence from other people, which I find funny, where they're like, well, we want to know what you think. Well, what I think is I use all of my resources to the best of my abilities. I don't just want to, talk out of my ass. So yeah, it is, it's a lot sometimes. Like I have some people be like, dude, like there's just so many pictures on the screen, but I think it's good to get my point across.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like a really good part of your channel and how you present stuff. Yeah, like I was talking with Neil, went to law school and was a lawyer, and my girlfriend is about to be a lawyer. So I'm like very much not so that side of the brain, but yeah, like any point you have, you want to be able to defend it with evidence and right, like there's not a right or wrong answer, but it's like how can you support it, which is really really important. And then yeah, something else you do that I really like, because I feel like my channel is more like I want it to be informative, but I also just want it to be kind of like you're hanging out with the guys just talking ball. I like that you kind of do some videos where it's like more just like one take where you just kind of you have your supporting evidence, you have your things that come on screen, but you just kind of just whatever, you just ride with it and vamp it and do it in one take, which I feel like not that many people do. So yeah, like where do you find yourself, like how like do you like switching up between those different things, like more structured or just kind of going with the flow?
It's actually funny, man. Like every video I do, if I had it my way, it would be one take. And if it's not one take, it's because I screwed something up so bad that you can't possibly see what happened on the screen. Um, but it's funny, man. I had an editor a while back, and I still have guys I could reach out to if I wanted a video edited. But it's funny. I don't know if it's just me or if it's growing up in Jersey. I don't really think that people talk fast in Jersey, but that's what I always get. Where, especially early on, because if you edit out, like a lot of people do edit out like every breath that they take almost just to kind of fit everything together. The issue is that if you do that with me, you're essentially putting me on 1.75x like already, and it's just a bit overwhelming for people. So I'm almost like it's kind of a cheat code in a way that I talk so fast that I even have to remember, like when I'm recording videos, I try to. It is something I'm mindful of like taking a breath, slowing down, chilling out a little bit, but it really is a mix of not like because editing is a lengthy process of like having to cut things and add pictures in and then and then the video has to render for a while. So having it set up now, it's kind of just been a process over time where I used to edit things and then I was like, you know what if I didn't? And then I kind of went with that. And there was also just sort of the reps of it where, I've been doing this since like 2020 at this point. So it is the reps of like now I kind of understand what a video needs to be and what it'll look like, so I can just rip it off in one take. And I used to joke about it and be like, I would call it like once every if I didn't have time to edit, I would just be like, all right, this is gonna be one take Drake, like just bear with me, fellas. And then it just ended up being something that I could do most of the time.
Yeah, that's really fun. Yeah, and then I know in August, obviously, you're doing a lot of best ball streams and everything, but how, like, something that really interests me is like, I already doxed myself today and before, but I'm in 45 dynasty leagues, which is absolutely heinous. So obviously, I'm tapped into the dynasty market, but I do feel like playing both, and as the game becomes more and more like now it's literally year round. We had drafts in like what, January or February for best ball, but how do you feel like the two play off of each other and how you can use like one dynasty for best ball and best ball for dynasty?
I actually love that question because I do think that it's something funny as well, man. Again, like I don't want to give too much airtime to people in the comments, but I have gotten before where I'll bring up underdog ADP or I'll bring up Mike Clay in a dynasty video. And people are like who cares, man? Like it's dynasty. It's like no, it matters because we are trying to score points and win, right? Especially when we're talking about contending assets. So it's good to, from a dynasty perspective, being caught up with the redraft market is massive because you want to have your finger on the pulse here of who's going to score points, right? Like if you're a contender and you don't have a single first round pick and underdog on your team, like you're probably in trouble in
You're
terms of
screwed.
contending.
Yeah.
Like you need some kind of reality check of, oh, here's what the market thinks. If I'm contending, I need these kinds of players, and if not, if there's a guy that's high in the redraft rankings and you're not trying to contend, he should be off your team. And then the other side is something that I think I used to think there wasn't much crossover for like what can you learn from redraft and dynasty, but I think Siegel has done a great job. Sean Siegel, when he goes over on Overzet's channel, which I'm so jealous of, dude. I think Sean is genuinely like one of the godfathers of fantasy football, and Pete has a direct line to him. I couldn't tell you. I would have to ask Pete to get me in touch with Sean Siegel if I wanted to talk to him. I think eventually I will, but he's someone where I don't know. I don't think that he has a Twitter account, so I can't DM him. I don't know his email. Like he is, but he's great. Like I read all of his stuff. He's someone that I think is really sharp. But like he often says, like it is kind of not to cross over with sports here, but we do oftentimes see players hit their ceilings before you think. It's not like sports aren't linear, right? Like this Anthony Edwards thing where he's coming out of nowhere and he's amazing already at like 22 and is just a monster. Like, and they might knock off the Nuggets. Like it's not always this linear of like, oh, well, he's going to hit his peak at 26, 27 and be great there. So Dynasty is almost a gauge of a player's talent, especially when we're talking about young players, and you want the more talented players. So it is something where I think that he said in the past that you almost want your redraft teams to look like Dynasty teams, and that's something that stuck with me. I think that that's right.
Yeah, and I know every year they do a video where they're trying to predict like the first 2 rounds or whatever in next year's like I think they do tight end premium usually for that, but whatever, like redraft essentially. And I think that's a really, really fun exercise to do as well. Just kind of just think through different scenarios, like what are the range of outcomes for each player. And I really just think obviously if you're playing Dynasty, you're probably tapped in. But just knowing kind of like to the nitty gritty what is going on at any one moment is always going to give you an edge. And then what do you think really how did your progression go throughout like your content creating career? Because I know you said you started out kind of doing like some fantasy content, some just like NFL content. But like, where did you like find your niche and kind of like what made you push it in that direction that you have?
It's really like in terms of the overall progression, it's been interesting where, man, like I started, you guys can hear me, right? Or you can?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, my bad. I was messing around with the audio there. But yeah, it's interesting, man. I used to, because I really do, like I said, like I do actually think that my writing is one of my better traits. Like when I was in school, like I was good at math, but I got like not to brag or anything, but like I don't know, we did like an AP Lang college course in high school that I got like the best score you could get. So I'm pretty good at writing. It's something that I was like, oh, well, I'll do this. But the issue is like I'm sure you and I know, like unless if you're one of those guys like Sean or like Gretch with a Substack, like starting out from scratch, like trying to build an audience, writing is ridiculous, man. Like you would have to be like 1 in a million at writing to like make it by just simply writing and being this like faceless guy. So I wrote for a little bit. I did always love Player Profiler, so I wrote for them, and then really just like essentially what happened is COVID happened. I was like, well, I've always wanted to make fantasy football content. I was like about to go into college, or no, I was at the second half of my freshman year of community college, and I was like, you know what? Why not just like record videos and start making content? So I started writing articles and I started making videos. The videos sucked forever. I've told this before, but I would used to like I would post them on Reddit and they would get downvoted. They would have more downvotes than upvotes. People would hate them, and it was like a real slow grind, man. But it's kind of just what it is. Like you kind of just have to accept that your first however many videos are gonna suck. I was like kind of just like whispering in my mom's basement back then, and then I had like one. I think I've talked about it before, but Robert Saleh gets hired. I make a video about that, not even fantasy football, and that video does really well. And that kind of just like kept me hanging on long enough so that one of these summer waves that we get with these redraft creators, you'll see in the summer, like numbers are just absolutely crazy at the end of August, early September. So if you can catch one of those waves, man, that'll get you right in the groove. So it really was, sticking with it early when you're not seeing results, and then every summer just kind of building on top of that.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the hard part for me as someone who is very new is yeah, I'm not a person that is usually like comfortable talking in front of a bunch of people. And I have a stream every week with one of my Dynasty buddies that we do. So I feel like I have pretty good chemistry with him and like other people that I like have some background with. But it's being on camera is kind of weird. Like it's just you're I think even just in the first couple of months, it's definitely gotten a lot easier, but not something that comes natural to me, and I don't think most people. So that's like the weirdest part for me is just like, okay, how do I tie it into what I'm actually talking about, but also keep it entertaining? Because yeah, I don't think like I definitely don't think I'm the smartest person in the world, right? But like you said, there's so many. It's such a good community, and there's so many smart people in the space. Like I could list off names for forever, but yeah, like you want to kind of take the best snippets from different people's work. You don't have to have some hot take where you're, just doing something just to do something. But I think iron sharpens iron, and there's so many sharp minds in the space, and we just want to all grow together and kind of, people are going to have different opinions, but as long as you can defend it, that's the most important part. So
Yeah, I agree. And the on-camera stuff, man, like it really is. I'm not. I was gonna say you're lucky. I mean, you are lucky in a sense that streaming when you're talking with somebody, it's much more natural, right? Like we're just having a conversation here. Like doing a solo video and like you don't even know what being on camera is like. Like maybe back then I should have streamed a little bit just to get some reps in, but yeah, dude, like talking to a camera and those I do one take Drake now. Like we're talking like for a 15-minute video, that might be like 35, 40 minutes of like runtime back then where I'm just like
sure.
fumbling over myself and not really sure to present information. And it's really tough starting out, man. People don't understand. Like that's why I have so much respect for Overzet. I know that you know his work. Like he is a monster. When it like I couldn't even imagine. It's overwhelming for me to have just one person on the channel. The fact that he can have 4 or 5 dudes and he can kick it around and there's no awkward pauses and stuff. Like I think that he gets really slept on for having like he is a very talented host, which I think is rare in this space.
Yeah, man. Pete, you and Pete and like there's a few others in the space that like really like whatever just inspired me to start making content. And yeah, it's like it's Pete is just what he's one on one, man. Like he
Yeah.
he he brings the comedy. He's obviously very very smart and knows what he's talking about as well.
He
Um,
loves to play himself down though. Oh, I'll bring the smart guys on, and then I'm seeing he's doing short form on Deposit Kingdom, and he's pulling. He's dude. His short form on Deposit Kingdom. I'm it's gonna pick up steam in the summer, but I've been loving the way that he edits them, and he kind of like there was almost like they're almost scripted too, where he has like jokes built in. So yeah, Pete's the man.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying his because I think obviously last year he was streaming all 150 of his drafts, which was also absolutely insane. But yeah, it's he's leaning into his comedy a little bit more, and his writing as well. I think is really good. So
Yeah.
props to Pete for sure. All right, well, I mean, I'm sure we'll just vamp a little bit more, but let's pull up the sleeper draft. So yeah, I mean, obviously, there's not. Why don't you start off? But there's not too much to talk about with Caleb. But why don't you start with your 101?
So this is Dynasty rookie like super flex tight end premium pretty
Yeah,
much.
so I probably should have prefaced that. A super flex, tight end premium, just like rookie draft. We can do 2 rounds. I mean, obviously, if there's any guys we can call out that they're going later, I know we all have our favorites later on, but yeah, just talk through whatever, go pick by pick, and then also just how we're playing it in rookie drafts and what we've seen so far.
Yeah. And we're gonna go back and forth, so you get the 2, the 4, whatever.
Yep. Uh-huh.
All right, sweet. So the one, I'll take Caleb Williams, of course. I will say, in the like 9 or so rookie drafts I've done so far, I've had one where I saw Marvin Harrison Jr. go first, which is interesting. I can't get there personally. Just give me the quarterback. And I've said this as well, but it shouldn't factor in a ton, but like also the fact that he got Roma Dunze just like brings this landing spot to a whole nother level. So he's somebody I had 101 and I traded off of it. I'm honestly I'm having some buyer's remorse. I traded the 101, the 110, and Justin Herbert. So we're talking big boy stuff there for Jalen Hurts, Brees Hall, and the 107.
Okay.
Uh So I think it's like about dead even. It was a spot where I had Justin Herbert, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, and then was about to get Caleb as well. And I could have just stomached having another quarterback and it would have been a big deal, but it was a team that I was rebuilding and I wanted to kind of, solve my quarterback problem a little bit. So I sort of moved around some assets to, pay up for Hurts, get a running back because I was tanking and didn't have anything there. So yeah, he's somebody. He's kind of. I haven't gotten a Caleb share yet, and I'm trying to in some leagues. I only had one in 101 and I sold it. But yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's been spoken about ad nauseum, obviously, as kind of the guy that's been pegged as the 101 for a couple of years. But yeah, like you said, the Rome Odunze point is a big one. Like that off, like usually rookie quarterbacks were like, okay, like even T Law, right? Like so many times, like even these really good prospects don't produce their rookie year just because of the situation around them and the situation being so good in Chicago, how they're setting it up. It's it's like I don't know if you can really be too high on Caleb. I have a lot of leagues where like yeah, like I don't really need him. So I'm trying to move him, but I think I'm just gonna take him and just try to move him later on for a whatever a chase or we'll see how high this team gets. I think it could get pretty crazy as we get into August and once the season starts. But yeah, definitely no problems with with Caleb Williams 101. I'm gonna go Harrison 102. Yeah, obviously an insane prospect, probably like up there with the chases and some of the best prospects we've seen in the last couple of years for wide receiver. And now that he is confirmed on the Arizona Cardinals with Kyler, I mean, we've seen Kyler support pretty crazy production with D Hop, and I think the offense as a whole is just on the up and up. So yeah, not too much to say about Marvin Harrison Jr., but I haven't gotten too much of him just because I either like tanked real hard and just got the 101. And it's what like so you said you haven't done any trades like moving back from the 101 to the 102, but what would you be like? I don't want to just take Marvin Harrison 101 if I have the 101. Like, what would you be asking for on top if you were trying to move down? Just because I think some people might be in the position where they're like, I'm trying to just I don't need the quarterback, and how would you move off of that?
Well, I'm wondering, do you think? I mean, it sounds crazy, but I don't think you could. I don't think you could net. I don't think you could do 102 and a 25 first for the 101. I don't know that that's on the table. Um, I would try with that. I don't think you're going to get that unless if there's someone that's really hungry for Caleb. But I do think something that's like more realistic is like maybe you move back to you get the 102 and a 25 first, and you give the 101 and a 25 second, like maybe a swap like that. So
Sure.
that's kind of what I would want. I would want to net a future first, even if I have to pay up a little bit for it. Maybe I have to give some kind of asset in return. So I'd say that's about my goal would be to net a future first, but again, I don't think you'll get one for free. Yeah, I would want capital though. I know that you could maybe throw a player in or something, but yeah, I would want capital move off of him just because of what quarterbacks are. And like you said, like I think he's someone I could see now, especially with the Odunze thing, like going as high as like 107 in a startup. Like I wouldn't even really like hate it that much to be honest.
Yeah, that's where I struggle. It's like I just think obviously I love Harrison, but I just think Caleb like I think he could go people could get really hot on him and he could go like 104, 105 like in August or sometime during the season if he starts playing well and has some big games. So I'm almost just apt to just hold him and then just like I can move him later on. So yeah, that's been a real struggle for me though because I do have a lot of 101s. So you're up at 103. Who are you going here?
I'm gonna just take Neighbors here. You could talk me into a quarterback, but he's someone where he's like Marvin Harrison Jr. Like it's very much it feels a lot like Julio and AJ Green, where they're both just absolute studs. Like Malik Neighbors is just a monster. I know some people are scared off by the Giants landing spot, and I know that the quarterback play is not amazing with Daniel Jones and Drew Lock, but it is really one of those things where I kind of do just trust Dable. Like some people compare it to like Drake London and these situations. I don't know. I don't put Dable in the same bucket as a guy like Arthur Smith or whoever DJ Moore had in Carolina for a while. So it is kind of just trusting him that he'll use him. And he is somebody as well where, he's not this like super high ADOT downfield guy. Like you can get him in jet sweeps and screens, and it's not that difficult to get him the ball. So Yeah, I'll take Neighbors. Just super clean prospect, despite the landing spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Arthur Smith, like Atlanta Falcons, like we might not ever see anything quite like that ever again.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ago, obviously Daniel Jones got hurt last year, but I mean, it was Isaiah Hodgins, uh, Darius Slayton, like pretty much any wide receiver that was there was producing. I don't think Daniel Jones is some world beater, but I think he can feed some targets to Malik Neighbors. So
I don't mind Drew Lock either, man. There's some steam that he might play, but I mean he doesn't look terrible, man. Like he wasn't that bad in Denver. Like he obviously, like you said, not a world beater, but so facilitating like a top 25 passing offense, sure.
So I'm this is a tough spot here because I mean it's like, do we go by ADP or do we go by just who we like? I'm gonna go Drake May just because this is my preferred option here. Um, it's not that I dislike Jaden Daniels, but it's just if I'm gonna bet on the talent, I think it's Drake May. I think he obviously, like, it's been talked about, but he does run a lot more than people realize. He takes a lot of deep shots. He takes risks, which is, I feel like, really fantasy friendly, and his skill set is very fantasy friendly. And I know the Patriots landing spot seems really gross, but I think people just kind of hold the situation from last year too much in their brain. Like, they brought in Jalen Polk, they brought in Javon Baker. Their O line should be a little bit better. Was really, really injured last year. It's a new coaching staff, so I'm not too worried about the landing spot. I know it's a little gross, but I'm going to bet on the talent there, that I believe is a better profile over Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, that's where I've been as well. May just seems cleaner, and like you said, like I'm not that scared off of a Patriots landing spot. Like I'll go Jaden Daniels here. Like the only reason that Washington's better is because they have McLaurin. Their offensive line is awful. They were a team that was rumored to move up to the back end of the first round and get like offensive line, and they didn't. They never really addressed it. I don't think. Maybe they got like a day two guy. So their offensive line is brutal. Like outside of Terry McLaurin, I guess like you could, I like Ben Sinnott. Jahan Dotson, I'm not really convinced is a needle mover at wide receiver at all. And Daniels just the issue with Daniels is he's so interesting because he's going to score points. It's just a matter of if the market will buy into him being a long-term starter, kind of like we're seeing with Hurts, right? Where you have that decision point where Fields had that issue, and now we're seeing it play out the bad way. Hurts had that issue, but we saw him go all the way up to the 103. So wide range of outcomes. His pressure to sack rate stuff scares me. Older prospect. He's like very thin. He bails on clean pockets. He like isn't great in terms of his pressure to sack rate. Like it's tough, but then he also could be one of these, like, he could have a Robert Griffin III type rookie year. And I eat my words, and he's like a seventh overall startup pick. So Jaden Daniels is scary, has all the upside in the world, but the floor does scare me.
Yeah, the argument that I've seen for him is basically like, yeah, his skill set is just, he's going to run so much that, like, it's kind of the Justin Fields thesis where, like, even if he's not actually good, he will still rise in value to be like that late first, mid first, just based on the production and that he's young. And then if you do want to get out, like, you can always get out. Like, I remember Justin Fields was going ahead of Lamar Jackson in startups last year, which is also why I did so many startups last year, because I was like, I can get Lamar Jackson at like 108, 109 consistently, and fed into my degeneracy. But yeah, I haven't taken any Jaden Daniels yet, just because I'll take Neighbors over him. And then May has been falling so much farther into like the 106, 107 range. So it's like, I just haven't needed to. But it's not so much an anti Jaden Daniels take as I just like the other guys a little bit more. So then at 106, this is a very interesting spot. If we're going purely based on talent, and not just ADP, I'm gonna go Bowers. It might be a hot take, but I don't actually think the Raiders landing spot is that bad. Like, I mean, we saw last year with Dalton Kincaid, like, they had Dawson Knox there. Obviously, Dawson Knox got hurt, so that played into it. But I just think he's so talented. His profile is so clean. Like, I don't want to be the guy missing out on a potential. Like, if anyone is going to turn into the next Travis Kelce, it's going to be Brock Bowers. And I don't want to be missing out on that, especially at the cost of, like, I like Bauer. I mean, I like Adunes. Whatever. Some of these other guys in this, and JJ McCarthy is like fine, but I just tight ends. Yes, we have more now that are interesting, but I still think he's the best bet for like 20 points per game in tight end premium versus like Laporta and Kincaid and all these other guys based on his profile. So I don't want to be fading just based on the landing spot.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely love Bowers. I already have him a bunch, and he's somebody that I think could just get into this tier of his own as like tight end 1 overall. Like if he has a really good rookie year, he's 2 years younger than Laporta, 3 years younger than Trey McBride, so he has a pretty big age cushion on kind of the rest of the landscape. So if he does something like really crazy this year, he could be somebody. Like, people forget, man, like Pitts as a rookie was someone that was going like late first, early second in startups. Like it wouldn't be crazy for Bowers to see that same kind of meteoric rise just because of the positional value stuff. But I'll take JJ McCarthy here. It's funny, man. I'm not the biggest JJ McCarthy guy ever. But the Vikings landing spot has kind of swayed me a bit. I do trust Kevin O'Connell. I think Kevin O'Connell is one of the sharpest minds in the league. And if he thinks a quarterback is good, then who am I to say that he isn't? Like, it's really more, it's not even so much like Jaden Daniels where we have this, we have data that says that JJ McCarthy isn't good. It's just that we don't have data that says that he's really, really good. You know what I mean? But I don't mind leading into that uncertainty. Like, the more that I think about it, he was a high level recruit, went at Michigan. It is very funny that, he just stuck it out at Michigan. Like, you see a lot of those high recruit guys, if they're playing in an offense like that, they want out of there the first second that they can. But he's a perfect skill set for them. He's gonna have Justin Jefferson, which is just amazing for him as a rookie. And then on top of that, Kevin O'Connell and these, McVay, Shanahan type guys, they love attacking the middle of the field, and that's what JJ McCarthy does best. So it's kind of the perfect marriage. And if KOC can talk Josh Dobbs through an NFL offense through his headset, like, I think that he can get JJ McCarthy to produce, like, Brock Purdy numbers, but also, like, it is one of those things. I don't know that we know what upside looks like for players. Like Cooper Kupp, the slot white wide receiver. I always think about that. We think, oh, he has no upside, and then he has one of the craziest wide receiver 1 seasons ever. So, JJ McCarthy, a lot of us think, oh, well, he could be Brock Purdy. Well, what if he could be CJ Stroud? Like, I know that that's like a crazy thing to say, but I don't think it's out of the range of outcomes.
Yeah, and like, if any offense is going to get the best out of them, it is Minnesota. And we saw Nick Mullins. I mean, yeah, he was throwing interceptions, but like, he was still putting up crazy numbers passing wise. And I think JJ McCarthy is a lot better than Nick Mullins. So that's kind of where I'm at with him. So 108, kind of the last guy in this tier. The first 8 is super, super strong. But I'm going Rome Dunes. His, obviously, there's the point of contention that he is a senior, but it's a little bit weird with the COVID stuff. And I know you've talked about how, like, previously you would have docked him more for it, but now, I mean, you're just like, okay, he still has a really good profile. I don't want to really put too much stock into that. He obviously lands on the Bears, where they do have a crowded wide receiver room, but I just want to bet on the talent, like we've been talking about. Landing with Caleb, who we think is going to be really, really good. Keenan is 32. So I mean, a year from now, he could kind of fall off, or during the year this year. So you might not get as much immediate production, at least in the early season, but I still think obviously rookie receivers tend to score more at the end of the season. That's kind of the cheat code in best ball. And then his reception perception, absolutely, like, nuts. And all the other, like, film guys love him as well. So I don't think you win as much with him. And same with JJ McCarthy versus Bowers, which is why I took Bowers 106. Like, if you get a 20 point per game tight end and tight end premium, like, that's just absolute gold mine. Versus wide receiver, like, he can still be really good. And, like, yeah, maybe he's like a high second round pick or something like that. But I just don't think the upside is the same for these other guys. I guess JJ McCarthy is a quarterback, so you never know. But yeah, so who do you want to go 109? This is an interesting point here in drafts where I've been trying to trade out a lot, but where are you going?
Yeah, the 109, I'm begging someone to take off of me if I can. But if I had to, it'd be really close between for me, it'd be really close between Bo Nix and Xavier Worthy. I'm gonna go Xavier Worthy though. We have kind of the like Rashi Rice can't get out of his own way. Uh, and Xavier Worthy is interesting, man. Like he looks a lot to me like a Jalen Waddle type, where the production he had is really good. I know Waddle wasn't as clean. Just one of these like speedsters, like essentially one of these speedsters that goes in the first round that isn't your Henry Ruggs or your John Ross type. Like he has real production. He's done it next to NFL guys his entire career. He commands targets. He's great after the catch. I'm sort of all in on him at this point. He goes first round, so yeah, I do love Xavier Worthy, but he is somebody where, I don't know that he's ever a top 5 dynasty receiver, so I would like to get him a little bit cheaper, but I don't mind taking him here.
Yeah, I've almost like if I can't trade out of 109, I'll take Worthy just because people love Chiefs receivers, right? Anybody on the Chiefs or the Bills, like the steam is just going to get absolutely crazy. So we've already seen it with the Rashi Rice stuff going on as well as boosting him up. But yeah, I think outside of like these elite rookie receivers, I'm something Jacob Sanderson has talked about and other people in the dynasty space is like you're really the goal of rookie wide receivers is for them to increase in value, and then you can use them to trade up into an elite quarterback or an elite tight end or another difference making player. And I do think Xavier Worthy is the best bet to do that out of the bunch, just for the factors that you just laid out. So yeah, I don't love him, but it's just like kind of like a market play. And then next up, you were mentioning him before, but I'm going Bo Nix. I was like very skittish on Bo Nix like throughout the whole process. But I just think he went what was it? Was it 12th or 13th? But Robert, high in the first round. He's pretty much locked into like, even if he's absolutely terrible, 2 years of starting, which in Superflex is super valuable. He obviously the Oregon offense kind of weird just with the low ADOT stuff, but it's like I don't think he can't throw deep. It's not like he has the strongest arm in the world, but I think he can do it. Lands in a very good system for him, handpicked by Sean Payton. And something about him that I know you've mentioned as well is that he had 38 career rushing touchdowns. Obviously, he played a lot of games, so that plays into it as well. But his rushing upside is pretty underrated in my opinion. And I think that could just help his floor a little bit as he goes through the growing pains of being an NFL quarterback. So it's pretty crazy to me. I think it's just like he's a little bit older, doesn't have like the sexiest profile, but I think he's a very, very good bet to raise in value. And he's going pretty close to like Will Levis right now in startups. And I was pretty in on Levis just based on like his theoretical upside with them adding all the pieces there. But I'm trying to move some Levis for Bo Nix just because I think it's a little bit of a safer floor and similar if not better upside with Bo Nix.
Yeah, I like that call as well. I've been on the buy Will Levis train, but I will say like if I could move him for Bo Nix, I definitely would. Just give me a reroll, better draft capital, probably better college profile too, man. Like
Yeah,
I do like Will Levis, and I love the upside of like the percentage of throws that he has like over 20 yards is just like bonkers. So he's somebody where he's almost like this money ball guy where if he just like if the coaches let him just chuck a deep ball game and it actually works with the system, like he could be a monster. But the downside of like he's had back to college like awful turnover worthy plays and pressure to sack rate. Like he could be pretty brutal. So like I could see like kind of early career Geno Smith vibes from Will Levis. So we'll see how that works out. But for me, and I do like Bo Nix myself, but we'll go Brian Thomas Jr. He's someone I get a little bit scared off of guys like him where they only have that final year of production. Like that's a little bit scary with him. But if there was ever a spot where you could kind of forgive him, it would be an LSU wide receiver room where they just pump guys out. He, dominated next to Malik Neighbors, 17 receiving touchdowns, which is pretty bonkers. And he's somebody that makes his money in the deep areas of the field, and Trevor Lawrence is a really good thrower of the football in that area. And then he also is like very aggressive throwing the ball downfield. And they don't have anybody that can kind of take the top off of defense or, win 10 or more yards downfield, where like Christian Kirk and Ingram are much more underneath. I don't really trust Gabe Davis to get any kind of separation. So I'll take Brian Thomas Jr. He kind of, gives me like DK Metcalf vibes. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know T-Law hasn't been all that we wanted through a few years, but I still think it's a pretty good landing spot. If someone can utilize his skill set, I think it is Trevor Lawrence on that offense. And yeah, I mean, it's obviously there's Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram to kind of like soak up the underneath targets, but it's not like I'm super worried about Gabe Davis. And I still think he can grow into being in the number one there. If he is that guy, I'm not really sure he is, but definitely willing to take the shot. We do have a chat here that I want to get to. Best Ball Guy, who friend of the channel, he says he has an offer of the 102 and 206, and someone wants to give me 103 and 110. What do we think? Why don't you go first here, and I'll follow up with my thoughts.
Man, that's really close, man. That's tough for me. My gut reaction is almost wanting to just stick at 2 and take Marv, because I do really like him. It kind of depends on what you think the gap is between Marv and Neighbors. The issue is like the 110 is not a spot I'm like dying to get to in the draft room, and the 206, I've honestly found the like early to mid second is like really nice. So I guess like the 2v2 is almost like it's probably like Harrison Jr. and say like Ricky Pearsall or like Xavier Legette. I'll say like Xavier Legette and Marvin Harrison Jr. or like Malik Neighbors and Bo Nix, or Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. It's such a close toss up, man. That's tough, dude. I think I think I would stay in the pocket at 102 unless I really believe that I could turn that 110 into a future first.
So I
kind of a cop out.
He says his team is in a complete rebuild. So I guess that adds more context that I probably should have said. But yeah, I think I'm on the other side of it. Like, as much as I love Marvin Harrison, I just don't think there's that much of a difference for me. I know the landing spot is better for Harrison, but I think it's enough value for me where I'm like, I'll take it, as long as I don't want no Harrison. So like, if you're just like, I don't have that much and I just want to take Harrison just for my market share, then I'll do that. But I definitely I like Leggett and I like Pearsall, but like I feel a lot better about a Bo Nix or a BTJ or maybe a Worthy or something falls. So yeah, I think I'm on the other side, but I am back up at 112, and I am going to go Jonathan Brooks here. The landing spot, I think it seems kind of gross, but I actually think it's not as bad as it seems, because Chuba and Miles Sanders, I know Miles Sanders got the contract last year, but there's really not that much investment. And I think they're more Jags than anything else. So bringing Dave Canales over from Tampa Bay, we saw him utilize Rachaad White in a bell cow role last year. And I'm kind of all in on the Panthers offense at cost. In best ball more, but I mean, even in Dynasty as well, just because they are going so cheap. And I think he's also 20 years old. So even though he's coming off of the ACL tear, it seems like it was a clean tear. And if I'm going to bet on anyone coming back from an ACL, it's going to be a 20-year-old versus an older guy. And I just think running backs have such a good chance of raising in value. I think we could see him push up pretty high up in the Dynasty running back rankings if he just has a pretty just average rookie year based on the fact that he's so young, and people are going to have optimism of him coming off the ACL. So.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Like Jonathan Brooks, like I did a Dynasty rankings update recently, and I put him at like RB12. Like he's someone where once the season's over, as long as he's not god awful, like as long as he doesn't have like a Melvin Gordon type rookie year, people forget he was like brutal. People are gonna look up and be like, this guy's 21, he catches passes, he has top 50 draft capital, and you look around the rest of the landscape, and McCaffrey's gonna be another year older, Derrick Henry will be another year older, like. We have a good 2025 class coming in, but that gap between Super Bowl and NFL draft, like Jonathan Brooks is going to be, the sexiest running back past, Brees, Bijan, and Gibbs. So he's someone I could very much see, like really catapulting after the season because he already has the excuse baked in, right? As long as he's not terrible, people are like, oh, well, he was off the ACL. He's not going to be the most efficient guy in the world. So yeah, Brooks not bad at all. At this pick, I will take, right? I'll be the 201 here.
Yep, you're the 201 next up here. Yep.
Let me get, you know what? I will take. This one's controversial, but I'm going to go Keon Coleman. I have to stand on business. It's just what it is. I know Ladd McConkey's up there. If it was like a real league and I wanted to soak up all the ADP value, I would debate Ladd McConkey really hard here, but I just can't quit Keon Coleman. I know he gives everyone flashbacks. Look, I'm dealing with those same flashbacks of Treylon Burks and N'Keal Harry and these like big physical guys that are a little bit raw. But he does seem different, man. Like he is just one of these guys where I do believe the idea of just being like a very special athlete where, if you're good enough to play Michigan State basketball, like you are a crazy, crazy athlete. And then on top of that, I know that he didn't kill in terms of the combine, but his vertical and everything outside of his 40 was really good. It's crazy. I hate to put that much stock in like the gauntlet and everything, but in terms of miles per hour tracking, he was one of the fastest in the gauntlet running routes. Like in terms of like in-game tracking data, he was great too. So he's someone that's almost like arrogant in the way that he catches balls. And I do think that he's just like supremely confident. He has the kind of like demeanor I want from a receiver. Like I know that this is all like vibes-based takes here, but he is like, we're talking early second. I don't mind making a vibes-based take argument. And it's funny, man. If it was anybody but Keon Coleman, everybody would be jumping all over the idea of a receiver going 33rd to Buffalo and being the wide receiver one on that depth chart. If it was like A.D. Mitchell instead or Brian Thomas Jr. instead, we're talking about mid to late firsts here. So I don't mind Keon Coleman at all. I know that there's the red flags of the lack of separation, can he play extra from day one? But he's super young. You can't even legally. I think that he's like about to turn 21 this month. So I'll bet on the youth, the upside, him being with Josh Allen, the weird interviews and stuff. I'm all in on Keon Coleman. I've already kind of made this bet.
Yeah, I really like that like you're pushing against the grain because some people are just so scared of Keon Coleman, and I think all the vibes based stuff you're talking about really resonates with me because I kind of went through like a whole like full circle on him. I was like during the season I was like, damn, this dude just can ball. Like you watch the highlights, you watch the highlights of him playing basketball. He just is that special athlete. And then as we get more like earlier into the off season of like January, February, and we're looking at his analytical profile, we're like, I don't know about this. It seems a little Quentin Johnson esque. And then the combine and all those like other than the 40 metrics looking so good, and then the landing spot with the Bills, like I'm all the way back in. I don't like if this was a real draft, I think I would like obviously try to trade back if I thought I could get Keon Coleman a little bit later on. But I like the bold take there. That's definitely in on the Keon Coleman train. So next up, I'm going to go Ladd McConkey, the faller out of this group. He is a very interesting profile, just kind of with his per route metrics, really good. Some of the other peripherals really good. A lot of the film guys really like him, but he just never really put it all together, from a production standpoint. So it really is a projection. But if you're going to go with a projection guy, having him paired up with Justin Herbert is a pretty fun landing spot. His competition for targets being the aforementioned Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, Hayden Hurst. They brought in GJ Chark, but it's a pretty soft room outside of him. So it's kind of the same thing as the Brian Thomas thing. Like if he is a guy it's a really good spot for him to raise in value. And yeah, I am a little bit lower on him than some. I do think I would take definitely. I don't like. I would try to trade back, but I don't hate just the Keon Coleman vibes based take over him straight up. So
I will say
who do you want to go next year?
I don't think I've ever been on the clock and I took Keon Coleman with Ladd McConkey still on the board. So I will put that out there. I do have a good bit of Keon Coleman, but probably not great process to take him with Ladd McConkey because I know, and someone I respect a ton, like I know Jacob has him as high as like 109. And so if Ladd McConkey is someone getting taken that high and Keon Coleman, like his ceiling is kind of like 201 in terms of the drafts I've seen, maybe like 112. Like you said, would want to trade back and just kind of see what you can get. But at this pick here, there's a couple of different like options, but I'm gonna go. It's tough, man. I have like a big clumped up tier here, but I'll go Michael Penix. I go back and forth on if I even like this guy as a dynasty asset. I have such a hard time debating between like, well, is Kirk just kind of like cooked? Is he like like I think that he's fine. I don't think that them drafting him was like indicative of where Kirk's at. But Kirk's also old as hell and coming off an Achilles injury to like put it lightly. So like, it wouldn't shock me if he came in and like got benched or something. Or like, what if the Falcons underperformed this year and they like suck, and they're I don't know, like 3-7 going into week 10. Like they're just they'll see what they have in Penix at that point. So I don't know. I go back and forth on whether or not he's going to be Hendon Hooker. Where I know Hendon Hooker didn't have that same draft capital, but just Jordan Love, another one where these guys rot on your bench and they do nothing but lose value. It seemed like the market. Some people have the take that the market's going to really stick firm and he'll hold his value. I don't know. It'll be a fun experiment. Like I don't know that he's going to hold his value and people are going to hold the line. I think once we get into the season and like, what if Kirk's balling out? That's the other side of the coin. So this is really purely just like it is funny. Like it's a very funny game theory experiment of we know what quarterbacks are valued at in Dynasty, and one got taken 8th overall, but the path to playing isn't very clear. And like at what point you're okay taking him? Early second probably feels about right, but I don't feel great doing it, but I know some people are taking him as high as like 110 in some leagues, which I can't get there. But yeah, it seems like this is about right where I would take him.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty good sweet spot for him. Like it just, I can make the argument for Trey Benson, the guy I'm about to go over him. But I do think like, yeah, the theoretical upside on Trey Benson versus Penix, I still think Penix definitely gets the lean there. So as someone who tries to just like take my feelings out of it and go with what I really think the range of outcomes is, I do like the Penix pick there. So next up at 204, I'm going to go Trey Benson. Super explosive back. He kind of reminds me a little bit. I've seen comparisons to Miles Sanders where he's not doesn't have a great success rate. He's a little bit boom bust. He's adequate at catching passes, but not like a passing game weapon. But I know some people were kind of down on the Arizona landing spot with James Conner being there, but I think it's honestly like it's probably not obviously top percentile outcome where he just gets like a Cowboys or something. But I think like right below that is Arizona, just because James Conner is 29 years old. We're not going to predict him to be injured or anything, but he does have a history of getting injured and just falling off the age cliff for running back. And I'm really all in on the Arizona offense with bringing in Marvin Harrison Jr., Kyler another year off the ACL tear, Trey McBride, a good offensive coaching staff there that likes to push the pace. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty into it. I think he won't be a pure contingent bet. Like I think he'll get some standalone work there because James Conner has been a bell cow, but it's not like they had a Trey Benson level talent next to him. It's been pretty mid competition. So I think he'll get some standalone work and whatever. He obviously has contingent value if James Conner does go down or they move on from James Conner at some point, like he has a pretty good runway to raise in value. And I think he can take advantage in a hopefully good offense and with having a fantasy friendly skill set of breaking long runs and catching passes. So yeah, what do you want to, any thoughts on Trey Benson before we go to your next pick?
I just find it funny how you didn't mention Greg Dortch when we're talking about the Arizona offense.
The short king himself.
Yeah, I kind of like Greg Dortch, but yeah, I like that take that the Cardinals are kind of an offense to buy into, especially with just where, especially in Dynasty with where Marvin Harrison Jr. is priced in redraft. Like, yeah, I mean, he's gonna do great things in year one according to the market. But yeah, I like Trey Benson as well. I'm not I'm probably like right about ADP with him. Like I was debating him there with my Penix pick. Yeah, like James Conner is yet to finish out a season playing the entire schedule, so he'll definitely have his spot to shine. Uh, at the 205, I will go with, again, I probably wouldn't do this. I'd probably try and trade back, but I'm gonna go AD Mitchell here. I'm gonna just take my guys this draft. This is my other
Oh,
that boy cold exception where he's not the best, he's not the best analytics profile. His yards per out run sucks, but he is somebody that I really do think is just a really good player. I also do, this is like also vibes based, but I do love that he got drafted by Reggie Wayne. I think Reggie Wayne probably knows a thing or two about receivers as the receiver coach over in Indy. And I think Chris Ballard, I mean, he's made some bad picks like Paris Campbell and Alec Pierce in the past, but I do kind of trust him to make good picks. And AD Mitchell is somebody where I don't watch tape, but the guys who watch tape think that he has NFL upside as like a really, really good receiver. Matt Harmon loves him. I think he beats press and man at 80th percentile or better. And I also just don't think, I just don't buy the idea that this Colts offense is going to be as run heavy as people think. I don't know that it's like this wasteland for receivers. Like they're building this receiver room because they know it's a passing league, and they drafted Ramsey Richardson for, of course, the rushing, but they drafted him for the upside of what his tools are. And he's a great processor, and his arm talent is unbelievable. He had some throws last year that are just insane, like jaw dropping throws in like 2.5 total games if we kind of like distilled the snaps down. So I'm
yeah.
high on AD Mitchell. The talent's there. He goes in the second round, but I don't know. I know we already used the comp for Brian Thomas Jr., but if he was this like DK Metcalf where we look up and be like, teams drafted Xavier Legette and Ricky Pearsall and Ladd McConkey over AD Mitchell when he was just sitting there the entire time, like it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I mean that's a good comparison right there. I mean, obviously their combine numbers and their size and everything were pretty similar. AD Mitchell's production wasn't amazing, but he also, I mean, I think Quinn Ewers is pretty ass. So if you just
Yeah.
get him with good offense, I trust Shane Steichen a lot. They are same with the Cardinals. They're gonna push the pace like a motherfucker, and I just think it's an offense I want to bet on as well. So definitely willing to take the shot. It's right. Like once you get to this range, like it's just get your guys. And I definitely think he has a lot of upside just kind of with all the things you said, like the film bros like him, and his athletic testing was pretty crazy. So good bet in that range.
I've been getting him late, man. I think I have like a 210, 211 share of AD Mitchell. Like he's been going late. So I don't mind waiting. Instead, I don't recommend sitting in the pocket and taking him over Pearsall and Leggett, but we're standing on business here.
Yeah, I mean this is not financial advice.
Yeah.
We're saying in a real draft, like take players more at ADP. This is more a vibes based, like guys we like type of rookie draft we're doing. It's not a predictive mock draft. So with that being said, I'm going to go Xavier Leggett over Rizzy Pearsall, who was my guy pre-draft. But
Wow.
I it's kind of the same thing as I was talking before about the Carolina. Just like I just don't. Their coaching was so bad last year. Like it literally was like not NFL coaching. They were not doing any motion. They weren't doing anything to set their players up for success. I was just line up and get your ass kicked. And so yeah, they brought in Canales, who we've seen 2 straight years kind of revive a quarterback's career, and actually knows how to run an offense. And Leggett, he just you said you had your Keon Coleman, like you're just going to throw out kind of the analytics and just go vibes based. Leggett is that guy for me. I just think he had some personal stuff going on, and obviously COVID. And then he just had the one really crazy year, his senior year. But I just think at this cost, going where he first round pick, It's like I don't think Bryce Young is amazing, but I think with competent coaching and with weapons around him, they brought in Deontay Johnson. They have Leggett. They drafted Jatavion Sanders, and they still have the dusty Adam Thielen. And they brought in Brooks as well. Like I just think people are baking in that like the situation last year so much with the Panthers that they're a little bit scared off. And I'm definitely willing to take the shot here at 2-6, which is like what are you really losing when you lose a 2-6? If it goes to nothing, I don't really care. But I think Leggett has pretty crazy upside with his athleticism and just taking a bet on the Panthers taking a step. So I think I know where you're going with your next pick here, but why don't you let us know who you're taking here at 2-7?
Well, I do love the Xavier Leggett pick. I think I talked about it on stream the other day, but I make trades where I think you might be in the same boat, man. Like trades when you're in a bunch of dynasty leagues, I don't know. Like some people are unwilling to make trades unless if they're like really winning by a lot. So I'm almost willing to take a 5% loss just to get a transaction done sometimes, just because sometimes, and it's not just a trade for no reason, but you do kind of want to lean into uh the uncertainty of just like, the transactions, and you can kind of get yourself into some upside. So I think I might have lost in the market. I did I essentially I traded up to the 211 to get Xavier Leggett. I gave up Ayuk, a third and a fourth, and I got Nico Collins, Xavier Leggett, and like a third back or something. So not it's pretty much like there's some junk in there, but it's pretty much Nico Collins and Xavier Leggett for Ayuk, which the market sees is probably a wider gap than that. But Ayuk versus Nico Collins, in terms of like we said, like using redraft for Dynasty, like their underdog ADPs are right next to each other. Nico Collins is younger and he has the better quarterback. So if I can net the upside in Leggett by trading him away, I was comfortable with it. Could I have maybe gone a little bit better of return? Sure. But I already had a lot of Ayuk. I already have a lot of Nico Collins as well, but I didn't want to pass on a spot to get a pretty cheap Leggett there. So yeah, I don't mind him. I don't mind him either. I do like that he has real production in his final year. Like you're not piecing it all the way together, But this is funny. This is probably gonna be the first time in one of these videos that I'm the one that takes Ricky Pearsall. So I'll take Ricky Pearsall.
Make the case.
I mean, I'm not crazy about him. I mean, this will probably come back to haunt me with Ricky Pearsall, but he's just it's tough, man. I mean, he was never the man. Like like Xavier Leggett at least had a year where he was the man in his offense. So I actually don't even hate you taking Leggett over him. Like if you look at Ricky Pearsall's best season, we're talking it's his past season. We're talking 65 for 965 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like I don't know. Like, of course, you can't just like one for one comparison there because like then you can look at Puka Nakua's stats and he maybe never crossed 1,000 receiving yards either. So I 100% get it, but Puka Nakua was a monster in terms of yards per out run. Ricky Pearsall, I think his career yards per out run is under 2. So I'm making the case against him here. The case for him is that he's simply just runs pretty routes. Matt Harmon likes him, and he gets drafted by Kyle Shanahan. So that should be at least regardless of what's going on there. It's a crowded room, but it's a team that's going to score a lot of points. So, and Debo has been someone that's been banged up. Kittle as well. McCaffrey's getting older. So you could definitely see a spot where like Ayuk's rookie year, and Ayuk was a similar way where nobody really liked him as a prospect and Shanahan took him and then he was this monster. So I don't mind kind of, trusting the process with Shanahan here. I think it's a little bit different. Ayuk was much more of this like physical X. I think he was a little bit younger. He also had like JUCO. So that kind of like explains some things in terms of his production. But yeah, I'll take Ricky Pearsall. He runs pretty routes. He'll have a decent role. I just don't know that he, in terms of his upside of what do you win when you win, I don't know that he ever even like sniffs the third round of a startup. I think he's already like 24. I might be overstating that, but he's already super old. And I don't know what his early path production is kind of rough. So in terms of value gains, it's not super clear cut.
Yeah. I just want to comment on your Ayuk Nico trade really quick before I give my thoughts. But yeah, I mean, I don't view Nico and Ayuk that much differently. Like Ayuk is obviously really good talent, but like the volume is capped in that San Francisco offense. And we just saw Nico put up like, what is it, 17 point something points per game, tied to CJ Stroud in an offense that's going to pass a lot. Yeah, he got more competition with Diggs, but I think Nico is going to be the X there, so he's not going to really come off the field. I think it's going to be, if anyone's going to come off the field, it'll be Diggs or probably Tank Dell just based on his size. So yeah, I mean, I view them. Obviously, the market is different. But I think getting Leggett on top is a pretty solid deal if I'm just giving up a third on top. So yeah, I definitely like that one.
Especially in these leagues where you have like, like 3 flexes. So it was kind of just like just to have more options, and these rookies are hammers down the stretch. Like, that could be the difference in a championship. If Leggett is one of these guys, like, you're Amon-Ra, St. Brown, whatever, and all these guys have the upside to be that guy. So yeah, I don't mind doing that kind of 2-for-1 in that like huge. I think that somebody coined it on Twitter. I don't know who it was, but like the wide receiver glob of like from like Waddle through like freaking
Todd
Devontae. Yeah.
Dynasty Superflex, yeah. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off there.
No,
yeah.
no, I was done there. Just like the wide receiver glob. So I don't mind netting anything to go from like what wide receiver 14 to like wide receiver 18. So I didn't mind it.
Yeah, I mean that's a sharp move in my opinion. But yeah, shout out to Dynasty Superflex Todd. He part of the Bulletproof Discord along with me, and yeah, super sharp guy. If you don't already follow him on Twitter, definitely go follow him. I'll leave the link down below after the stream. But yeah, I am up here at 2-8. I think I'm gonna go. This is also kind of vibes based. I'm gonna go Jalen Polk. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm gonna go Jalen Polk. It pains me a little bit to go over Jermaine Burton. I was kind of just gonna go say fuck it and go Jermaine Burton, but we'll ride with the draft capital. I think it was the 37th overall pick. And I feel like I'm a broken record here, but it's kind of an offense that everyone is leaving for dead, which we see teams all the time. We saw it with Houston last year. We've seen it in the past where I just am not worried about uncertainty in Dynasty or in best ball. It's like that's how you win, is when you lean into the uncertainty. So yeah, I mean, he could be the number one for Drake May. I like Drake May. I took him 104 in this draft. So yeah, I just think ambiguous wide receiver room. I don't love the profile, but yeah, I'm just riding with the draft capital and the hopes that he becomes the number one receiver for Drake May. And they kind of grow together as we've seen before, like rookie quarterbacks and rookie wide receivers developing that chemistry. So who do you want to go? What are your thoughts on Jalen Polk? Because he's kind of obviously the cost is pretty low, but what's your take on him?
I'm actually coming around on Jalen Polk. Like you said, I mean, 37th draft capital is like 37th overall draft capital is nothing to sneeze at, like that's very high. I will say that probably should have been the guy I brought up when I talked about, like when you look at DK Metcalf getting drafted like after, McCole Hardman and Andy Isabella, Jalen Polk could definitely be that meme. But he also he doesn't have a great production profile. He's not going to pop in any model, but he has a good excuse as any. He was in the same offense as Odunze. He was the same offense as Jalen McMillan. I think Puka Nacua started his career at Washington and maybe overlapped there too. So they have a lot of talent. So he was never going to put up crazy numbers. But his peripheral stuff looks good. Like Matt Harmon has kind of sold me on him a little bit, where it's tough because he doesn't have this monster upside, but I think peak Robert Woods. Remember when he was really good with Matthew Stafford? He was a top 20 guy in redraft leagues. And there's actually a startup on my channel from really early on where Robert Woods and Kupp were going next to each other in startups for, before Kupp was Kupp, they were, hand in hand, the same guy. I could see Polk being that, a guy who's just a perpetual wide receiver too. Again, like you said, I like Drake May. So yeah, he's someone that I've taken a little bit of. If I'm sitting at this 208, 209, 210 area and he's there, I have no issue leaning into the draft capital. And that's what I'll do with this pick at 209. I guess it's not really leaning into draft capital. I'll take that back. But I'm going to take Blake Corum. When I say leaning into draft capital, he's one of 2.5 running backs that got day 2 draft capital this year. So I'll take Corum. He's somebody where I think I saw the clip. You've probably seen it. I think might have been ADP chasing when they're talking about legendary downside with Kyren Williams. Yeah. And there is that's genuinely a very real possibility that Kyren Williams is also, he's under 200 pounds and he has not finished out a complete season yet in his career. If he goes down and Blake Corum comes in and does the exact same thing or better, Kyren might not get his job back. And you're talking about a guy that, is scoring, giving you RB1 points per game finishes in fantasy. And if not, I've been comparing him a lot to Alexander Madison, where I think any week that Kyron Williams goes down, like these like DFS sites and DraftKings and everything, like he'll be the free square of that week, just in this offense for the Rams. So that's really, really valuable, especially if you're a contending team.
Yeah, I mean, like I think they're both 24 years old, so like they're the same age. I mean, I don't know if Corum has the same like trusted ability, kind of like as a pass blocker and just like overall that Kyron has, but I definitely like the case you make for him. And yeah, I mean, the contingent value is just absolutely massive. So I mean, like if just for that alone you want to take him here, I think that's perfectly fine. I haven't taken any Corum yet, and I'm kind of feel like I'm missing out. I am a Michigan State fan, so I just hate Blake Corum, but definitely want to get some in Dynasty because I haven't gotten any so far. So I am up here at 210. So this is a tough spot because I feel like it's like I said, it's kind of choose your own adventure here. I'm gonna go. Is it Sinat or is it Sino? I don't even know. I think it's Sinat.
I think it's Sinat.
I'm gonna go Ben Sinat. He got drafted in the second round. His athletic profile is pretty solid. I think he was like 6'4", 254. Put up pretty good 40 time, pretty good jumps. He was a pretty solid producer as well in college. He's behind Zach Ertz, but I mean, we saw Zach Ertz obviously injured, and then I think whatever. Like I'm not going to be worried. We saw it just a couple years ago with Trey McBride, or last year with Trey McBride. I'm not going to let was he 32, 33-year-old Zach Ertz keep me from taking someone because I just think the upside for tight ends, obviously I don't want to just say like, oh, you look, last year we had a bunch of young tight ends kind of break out, but I do like the profile. I like the landing spot with the Commanders, and just I think he can pass up Zach Ertz, whether it be through injury or just being better at this point in Ertz's career. And I'm willing to take the shot this late in the second round. So.
Yeah, I really like Sanat too, man. I've been taking him a bunch. I took him in I think our league we did, the BSMT league, especially because that was a tight end premium one. So I think I like traded up for him. But he's someone like I could see, he has like Sam Laporta in his range of outcomes where he has this, second round draft capital. He could come right in, play right away. I know, like you said, like with Zach Ertz, but I think me and you were both not really treating that as much of a threat there. He led a really bad Kansas State team. Their passing yards, their best quarterback, Will Howard, who's going to transfer to Ohio State, had 2,600 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 picks. So, 2,600 yards is such a low volume passing offense. Ben Sinat led the team in receiving. He led the team in receiving touchdowns. 13.8 yards per reception as well is really good for a tight end. So he's like explosive. So yeah, I love Sinat. I debated taking him with this Corum pick. But I will take here. This is where I have to stand, against draft capital. But I'm going to take Jalen Wright here. I just have such a hard time turning down Jalen Wright. Your boy you talked about earlier, like Jermaine Burton's definitely very tempting here. So is Marshawn Lloyd, day 2 draft capital as well, just because we know what day 2 draft capital means for running backs. But I just can't quit Jalen Wright. He does, for all the same reasons I loved Devin Achane last year, and actually had him, that was my stand. It's much less of a big deal, round 3 versus round 2, but I did like Achane over Charbonnet. And I'll take Jalen Wright over Marshawn Lloyd and these other guys as well, just as, he's this speedy freak. I'm not, Raheem Mostert, just for the first time in his life, actually stayed healthy and scored touchdowns, 2 things he hasn't done historically. He's in his 30s. So if he ever goes down, this like 1-2 punch with Jalen Wright and Devin Achane would be just absolutely electric, where I think both of them are, efficient enough to just like make use of that and be just fine in an offense with Mike McDaniel where, his scheme's amazing and everything. So this is really kind of trusting Mike McDaniel. Every time that he's just like gotten his guy, he's not let us down. Like he makes a trade for Tyreek Hill, and he's been even better than he was with Patrick Mahomes, and he takes Devin Achane, and he was a monster last year, despite like not even being the starting running back really. So yeah, I'll just trust and take Jalen Wright.
Yeah, I mean, we just want pieces of that Miami offense, right? It's one of those offenses where it's like we don't really care as long as it's not the tight end, then we're gonna be all in. Yeah, I mean, like Mostert is super old. Achane is I love Achan, but he is small and he did get injured. So I mean, there's just a lot of upside in that offense. Even if he's not the guy, I think we saw last year multiple guys can hit in that offense. So yeah, you left me Burton here, but I'm kind of waffling on my pick. I'm here between him and Marshawn Lloyd. I think I'm gonna go Burton. But yeah, it's very close. Um, Burton is a guy. Obviously, he played at Alabama. Super high A dot. Super good. I think I don't know if he was a 5-star recruit, but he was a very good recruit. I just think there's outs with T Higgins maybe getting moved, whether it's this year or next year. We saw Tyler Boyd sign elsewhere, and it's another one of these offenses where we want wide receivers tied to Joe Burrow. He's one of the quarterbacks that can be a kingmaker in fantasy. And I think obviously he did fall in the draft a little bit due to character concerns. But if he does hit, I think you can win a lot, especially at this draft capital. And willing to take the shot here, but was close between Lloyd. I actually do like Lloyd a lot. So I don't want to make us go through a whole another third round, but do you have any favorites kind of in the third round that you want to call out for the people out there that they can target kind of later on after these first two?
Yeah, I'll point out someone that I've been coming around on a lot is Spencer Rattler. I think actually in a league with you, I traded up to make a pick to get Spencer Rattler. That's something I like to do as well. Like in terms of just like dynasty trade theory and stuff, is like I am somebody, and I feel bad sometimes. I think it's kind of obnoxious, but if I'm in, like, let's say it's like the 302, and I had this and I tried to do it the other day, and the other guy wouldn't let me budge, and he was probably better for it, but I was at like the 301, and Ben Sanat and Jermaine Burton were both on the board, and I really wanted to get the 302 so I could just take both. And if I have to give up my 4 or 5 and like next year's third to get that pick, I'll do that all day. Um, so that's something I'll try and do as well. But that's what I did. I think I was on the clock. You were also in a spot where you inherited this team. And I think you had a bunch of picks anyways. So I just sort of moved around some pieces so I could get Javon Baker and Spencer Rattler. So I'll say that those are kind of my two guys. But I've been coming around on Spencer Rattler a ton where um, I just don't have much faith in Derek Carr. And I'm very much a draft capital snob. So like 5th round for Spencer Rattler is pretty freaking brutal. But we've seen it with Sam Howell. Like I could definitely see him being like I don't know in terms of him being a really good quarterback, but if Derek Carr was to get hurt or if Derek Carr was to suck so bad that he got benched, like the minute Rattler comes in and he plays a few games and he looks startable for fantasy, like you turn a 3rd round pick into someone you could trade away for like a future first or a second and a piece or something. So I could just see the value gain pretty clearly with him in terms of being a quarterback, and he has some pedigree as well, where he's kind of similar to a Burton, where he was the QB1 in his class. Like he was this like mega recruit, and just got beat up by Caleb, and then had some pretty brutal supporting casts and coaching at South Carolina. But he's a nice upside profile. The only downside is that he doesn't really have a rushing ceiling. So you're not really talking about somebody that could like break fantasy. Like in terms of this area, that's kind of the guy you want. But I don't mind that just because I do think that he has a real path to starting games as soon as this year.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's the Senior Bowl, so I don't know how much stock to put into it, but I mean, everyone was saying that Rattler looked better than Bo Nix at the Senior Bowl. But yeah, I mean, he has the arm talent. Um, yeah, like Derek Carr is just pretty much the most mid quarterback of all time, and it's so interesting that they went with Rattler, who's just kind of like the Jameis Winston, who they just got rid of type, where he's just gonna fuck it, someone's down there, throw it, versus Carr, who's just kind of whatever. He actually doesn't throw a terrible deep ball, but he's just has no like upside. Basically, he is who he is, and he's not gonna change at this point. Um, Two guys. I mean, these are pretty obvious picks, but if people aren't as tied in, I really like Tyrone Tracy. His ADP is buried, and I took him in our league, and Jacob was really pissed. But he obviously Singletary is he can kind of consolidate the backfield. with his skill set, similar to like a Kyron, the extremely poor man's Kyron Williams, where he just kind of does everything okay and coaches love him. So I don't think Tyrone Tracy is that kind of guy, but I think obviously really good receiving back. And he could just whatever. If Singletary were to get hurt, he could be the RB2 there and get some standalone work too as a receiving back. So at his current cost, like sometimes I've been getting him off of waivers after rookie drafts run, even now in some leagues. So definitely willing to take the shot there. And then Kamani Vidal, he's been getting a lot of steam, obviously, in the best ball streets. But with that Chargers offense that is going to love to run the ball, and his competition is Gus Edwards, who, I mean, I think a lot of his production was bolstered by being in the backfield with Lamar Jackson. So I'm willing to fade Gus Edwards at that, whatever, just in that backfield. And then the ghost of J.K. Dobbins, RIP. I was all in last year. I think he would have absolutely smashed in that offense. I traded a first round pick on a couple of my contending teams to get him, and he went to 0. But yeah, I'm definitely.
He looked good on game 1 too, man. Week 1, like he was crushing it too before he got hurt, dude. It's awful, man.
He would have put up an absolutely bonkers season. If Gus Edwards and Justice Hill can produce in that backfield, Dobbins would have crushed for sure.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Kamani Vidal, like obviously he could be an absolute 0, but at that whatever mid third round where he goes, if he's the starting running back for the Chargers, like that's going to be super valuable, and you can always flip him for something a lot more exciting in season when he's producing, if that is the case. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Ron. I really appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, like you've been a huge inspiration to me throughout this content creation process. And anything else you want to plug or say before we head out of here?
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on again. Like I said, it's nice to put face to people that are in the community, because I know you're in Pete's community, you're in mine, and you're in the Bulletproof Discord. So it's nice to meet you, man. But yeah, I mean, in terms of where you can find me, Ron Stewart on YouTube. I mean, it's kind of I'll be honest, man. Running out of steam a little bit here, right? Because we're kind of between. I'll tie up the loose ends on the NFL draft stuff, and then after that, it's a pretty dead period until like early July. So yeah, Ron Stewart, you can find me there. Probably be doing best ball drafts and seasonal content coming soon. So all that'll be there. You can just kind of look up Ron Stewart. And hopefully that pops up these days. I don't know. I used to not have enough pull in the YouTube algorithm, but I think now it should come up. So yeah, Ron Stewart on YouTube is where you can find me, and I have all the videos uploaded to my podcast feed as well.
Yeah, if you guys haven't, probably you guys probably already have, but if you haven't, definitely go check out Ron. He's one of the sharpest Dynasty minds in the space. Also puts out really good best ball content. And yeah, in terms of on my end, we are going to do a stream tomorrow night with the Fantasy Dog Pound, another super smart best ball streamer. I am going to run a giveaway. So we're almost to 400 subscribers. So every 100 subscribers, I'm going to give away a BBM entry. So we're only a couple away. So if you're not already subscribed, any video, if you leave a comment, that'll be one entry. And I'll put that into a randomizer and give that away. But otherwise, yeah, we have lots of fun guests lined up. I was just on Neil Orfield's channel today, doing a stream with him. So go check Neil Orfield out and check that out. But yeah, really excited for this hot best ball summer to keep rolling on. And Ron, thanks so much for coming on.
Hell yeah. I'll say too, man, I would love to come back on and do a draft stream. I know you do a bunch of those, so sometime in the summer, that'd be cool.
Yeah, dude, let's set something up. Obviously, yeah, we got a lot of time left, but definitely would love to have you on and pick your brain on some best ball as well.
Hell yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow night.